Hello, 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 and welcome to HMO Heroes live at 5. And we are delighted to be with you again here tonight with our 9th HMO Hero joining us on the show. Now, if you don't know about HMO Heroes is a Facebook group celebrating HMO investors and all the fantastic things that we do, because we do get so slated in the media at large. And as you know, each week HMO Hero guests will be joining us, sharing about their journey into HMO success. Now, tonight's guest it's a story from frustration to freedom. And I think you'll absolutely love this story. She's been in property for 5 years, and in that time has achieved a phenomenal amount. It's incredible to me still what she's achieved in that time. She's built up some substantial portfolio of hundreds of HMO rooms, an HMO lettings agency, and also HMO investment business, and also has new developments, all of which we're going to be talking about to you on the show tonight. And it's all while having a family of 4 boys. And at the time when she started in property, they were aged between 5 and 21. So if one of the things that's holding you back is your commitments with big mortgages and all the other sort of bills that you need to pay, and if that has been putting you off from taking the plunge into property and making a change, then I think you'll find Wendy's story really inspiring. And it's property gold dust really for people who want to make their fortune without already having a fortune. And of course, this is a two-way situation. So if you're on the Facebook Live with us tonight, do give us a thumbs up so that we know that you're on, and also ask any questions that you have and Wendy will answer them live. And if you're watching after the live, then please ask your questions in the box and we can come on and answer them after the live. Okay, so without further ado, I want to say a huge welcome to the show, HMO Hero, Wendy Whittaker-Large. Hi, Wendy.
Hello, Stephanie. It's great to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me. Appreciate it.
Well, it's fantastic to have you on. Wendy, so let's get started. Tell us a bit about how you got started in property.
Well, I started in HMOs 5 years ago, but I actually started about 20 years ago in property, but very, very, very slowly. I made so many mistakes. I didn't get educated. I didn't learn what other people know. So I didn't do it the right way. But I started with a small pot of money that we inherited, actually. And I started buying I bought a small single buy-to-let property. And I grew bit by bit in the very traditional way of saving up for a deposit and then buying another house. And I did that for probably 4 or 5 times until I just realized that I couldn't grow anymore. And my income was never going to make us financially free. And I as you said in your introduction, I was pretty frustrated.
Yeah. Well, let me just say a quick hello, because remember we had that question from Tamsin. Well, Tamsin's on and she's just said hello. So Tamsin, we will be coming to your question as well. And if you have any other questions, of course, please do ask them. And I'll say a quick hello to Dan Jackson, Paul Haynes, Katie and Bill, who are also watching. So that was your situation, Wendy. You were feeling a bit frustrated that maybe the property investing just felt a bit slow and you wanted to speed things up a bit. So tell us what happened next.
So I came across Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And I know that, for most people in the property world, that's exactly the book that really switched on a light in their heads. And for me, that was the book that made me think, wow, I've got to do something different. I've got to start to invest in shared multiple income properties. And for me, the best way that I could see to do that was through HMOs. And I thought, it can't be that difficult to take a property and split it up into separate bedrooms and put furniture in and create a lovely living area. But of course, it's harder than it looks.
Yes.
And I didn't know what I didn't know, like many investors. And So I kind of leapt into it, feet first, and I did a small 4-bed HMO. And it was, if you like, it was a test version. And my husband, who has got an IT background, he said to me, it's like a beta model. It's our test model to see if we can get this to work. And that HMO worked really well, and the rooms rented very quickly. And I was really enthusiastic. So I remember coming home and saying to Andy, I think maybe we should have another go at this. We should do it again. And he said, yeah, okay, we'll give it a couple of months, and we'll have to save up, and we'll see how it embeds in. And I thought, oops, I just made another offer on a property.
That's fabulous. I love that. Yeah. So I straight in, and that ties into actually something that you said to me when we had our call, which was about the goal setting, and I sort of really admired your sort of commitment. So tell us a bit about what happened there.
So I was in a part-time job, not really enjoying it. I was in education, and it was very demanding and very tiring, and you didn't get paid for the hours you worked outside of the job. You just got paid for the hours you did, but there were lots of hours outside of the job as well, lots of overtime. And Andy was also working away from home. He was a contractor working in IT. And I just felt, there must be a way that we can become financially free, so we can both give up our jobs and have a better, much better standard of life. So I remember going to a property networking event, and the guy there said, what is your financial freedom figure? And what date are you going to achieve it by? Which is probably more important, actually. Yeah. And I wrote down £6,000 by March 2015. Yeah. And by March 2015, we had £6,000 coming in per month. And phoned him and said, you can give in your notice. And it was brilliant. It was an amazing moment where by then we were financially free as a family.
Yeah, no, it is impressive, because your husband was giving up a high-paying city job, and it was only a year, and we should say it's £6,000 net after all the costs of the properties have gone out. So it's a substantial income, and that's the story, well, part of the story that we're going to tell tonight, about how you went from zero, well, almost zero on the property side, to both you and your husband being able to come out of your jobs. So. Let's go back a few steps and tell us a bit more about your first deal and the sort of the numbers on it, and how you came to get it.
Well, let me just explain. I was pretty uneducated. I don't think I even understood the phrase below market value. So we're talking only 5 years ago, but if somebody said to me, was it below market value, I wouldn't really know what that meant. Yeah. So I hadn't done any reading, I hadn't got any courses, I was very, very naive. But what I did know was that if you took the right kind of property and you turned it into good quality accommodation, that people would rent it. I knew that from the handful of single buy-to-lets that I had. So we applied the same principles when we bought this 2-bed terrace, because that's all it was a 2-bed terrace. And we bought it for £78,000. And it had a little yard at the back of the house, just a small backyard. It had quite a good sized kitchen, and it had a nice sized bathroom. And downstairs there were 2 reception rooms, and upstairs there were 2 bedrooms. And we refurbished it, and we put in all the fire safety, and we added value by putting in built-in wardrobes, redecorated it beautifully, and staged the rooms. And hey presto, within about a week, 10 days maybe, we'd rented all of the rooms out. Wow. And it was fantastic, because of course I didn't really know whether I could do this or not, and that was proof that there was a demand, and there was proof that what we were doing was going to meet the needs of a certain marketplace, which was the young professional marketplace at the time. Yeah. So we bought it for £78,000. We spent about £7,000 on the refurb. The rooms rented for an average of about £85 a week. So in a month, we were getting that's about £1,400 a month income. The mortgage was pretty low. The cost of the mortgage, a couple of £100 a month. Utilities were not too expensive. And the reason for that is that because it's a terraced house, actually you get great insulation from the other properties when you've got a terraced house. And you find heating and water bills and so on are not too high. So I think our bills work out at about 350, 400 pounds a month. So we make a good 750 pounds a month on that property, and we have since the beginning. Now, when I saw that, I think I was probably bringing home about 2,000 pounds a month from my job. So I thought, I just need 3 of these houses. I need 12 rooms, just 12 rooms at 85 pounds a week, and I'm financially free. So that kind of, immediately the maths kind of set off at this, twirl in my head, and I was thinking, oh, just got to get some more rooms, just got to get some more rooms.
Yeah. And I know that people will be interested in the next step, because you used your own money. Once you started your education, you bought an HMO, and then after that, did you buy 2 and then you ran out of money, or?
Yes, so we bought a second one, and it was halfway through the renovations of the second one that our builder stuck his head up into the loft space and phoned me and said, "Hey, Wendy, I've got a great idea. Would you like to go up into the loft space?" And I said, "Well, how much is it going to be?" And he quoted a price. I think it was about £15,000. And I thought, I don't think we've got the money. But I said yes anyway, even though I didn't have the money. And one of the issues that we faced was, because we were then turning it into a 7-bed HMO on 3 stories. Of course, this is in current licensing rules. We were then going to be licensed, and we had to do acoustics. Our building control department said we've got to do acoustics on the property. So it didn't just turn into a loft conversion. We also had a lot more work we had to do in the rest of the property to bring that up to the right standard as well. So all in all, we needed about another £25,000. And I must admit, I had probably 2 or 3 absolute sleepless nights, because I'd said to the builder, yes, but I had no idea how we were going to pay for it.
Oh my goodness.
So that was tough. That was probably one of my toughest times, actually. But interestingly, from that, I learned how to raise money from investors. Because sometimes when you hit that wall and you're squirming, you've got nowhere else to go, you have to take action. You can't sit there and just cry into your soup. You've got to do something. And the only thing I could think of was phoning people to see if they had any money that they could lend to me. And so that's what I did. I phoned a few people. I told them what we were doing, and a couple said to me, "Yeah, we'll lend you the money." And I was absolutely ecstatic. I couldn't believe it. I offered a good rate of interest, so it was good for them because they weren't making any money on their money in the bank, and it was good for us because I could then finish this conversion for you.
And can you remember what rate of interest it was you offered, Wendy?
7.5%.
Oh, fantastic. And how long for? Or
5 years. 7.5% over 5 years, because I wanted to repay the capital at the same time. I didn't want to wait and repay it at the end and refinance at the end. I wanted to do it as we went, and they were happy with that too. So we did a capital repayment deal where I repaid the capital with the interest amount every month, and it was about £600 a month, I think, that we paid for 5 years. It's quite a lot of money, but we were making about £1,600 a month profit on the HMO after it was completed. So actually, once we paid off that loan, which was actually only a few months ago, it was great because we were then another £600 better off every month. But even during those 5 years, we'd made good profit on that 7-bed HMO. So it was always still worth doing.
Yeah, it's great to hear little gems like that, because I think people, having not enough capital is a barrier for many people in property, even people who start off quite well funded. So hearing the way that people are actually structuring these deals and what's appealing for investors, but also working for you as well, is really great. And I know that you've got lots more where that came from. So
I've got stories coming out of my ears, Stephanie, of all the developments and all the things that have gone wrong, and tenants that we've dealt with, and planning permission, and Japanese knotweed, and so much.
Okay, well, we'll come to some of the that's one of the reasons as well I like you. I didn't say this in the introduction, that I just love your energy and vitality, but also that real integrity really comes across, that you do give a balanced view of both sides, and I think people really feel that they can trust in you. I certainly do.
Oh, that's
and that can be rare, you know, in the property world. So, okay, so you've got this extra capital and you've now done HMO number 2. So pick up the story from there.
Well, at that point, we really had well and truly run out of money. There was nothing more we could do in terms of investing. And I was exhausted. I project managed the 7-bed HMO, and project management is not my skill. So it had been stressful for me to manage the builder and all the different tradespeople. And I, you know, we constantly were sort of going back and to, and I was down at the house nearly every day, and I was juggling, looking after the boys as well, being at home, and Andy was away in London. So it was pretty hard work. Yeah. And there was one day when I went on a webinar, and this guy on the webinar, we've all been on these property webinars, haven't we? And it was a really good webinar, actually. It was all about passive income, and he was continuing to inspire me to think about this becoming passive, because it was very active at that point. And I'm not sure that I totally believed that it could be passive. I think I thought, oh yeah, but you haven't just done a 7-bed HMO. It's not passive. It's very, very active. But he had apparently made it passive. So I was intrigued. And at the end of the webinar, he said, well, I'm running a 3-day property event in such and such a place, and it's £3,000 plus VAT. And I thought, oh, I really want to go, but I'm a bit scared, because we literally, I think, had one credit card that didn't have any balance on it. And I was in a dilemma. Do I do it or do I not? Anyway, I did. And faced a bit of a backlash, I have to say, but it was really worth it, because on that 3-day event, I met a guy who was looking to invest in HMOs. And he had quite a lot of money to invest, but he didn't know where to invest, and he didn't know how to do it. And I said, look,
ideas from Wendy.
I said, now, listen, I've got something to share with you, honey. Yeah. And I said, look, I'm not the world's expert on HMOs. I've only got 2. You know, I've got 11 rooms, so I'm not, you know, as kind of the HMO expert of the industry, but I do know a little bit about it. Come and see my portfolio. Let's have a chat, and we'll talk. And 4 months later, we'd formed our company, Best Nest, and we started to invest in HMOs together. And amazingly, he trusted me to do the project management. I don't know how that happened. And his role was to put the cash in, and my role was to project manage and oversee the tenants and make it work. And we created a portfolio of 6 HMOs together. I think it was 6 properties. And really then that was how my company Best Nest was formed. And now, following Mark's involvement, and he's still very much involved in the background, that was really the point when we became financially free, and Andy, my husband, then decided that he would come and join us in the business. So now I work very much with Andy, my husband, and he's helped us develop more properties since then. But Mark is still very much my business partner, and works behind the scenes doing some of the financial stuff and some of the spreadsheets, which again is not my strong point. That's such a great story from sort of, well, being a beginner, certainly being a beginner, and getting all that investment, the 6 HMOs. And what really excited me when I heard this story is the way that you structured that arrangement. And I think people will really be interested to learn about how that works. Do you want to say a little bit more about that, Wendy? Yeah, so we decided to do a 50-50, and because Mark had already got some experience as an investor and had worked with other people before, he was quite knowledgeable about how to set this up, and that hugely helped me, because I was completely new to JVs. I mean, I think the first time he said to me, would you be interested in a JV? I thought, what kind of drink is that? Is it one of these new fruit drinks? I had no idea what he meant by JV, you know, and there's me sort of trying to look like a true property professional and just completely, you know, failing. And he said, well, you know, we'll do a joint venture where I'll put in the money, you put in the time, and we'll go 50-50 on the ownership and also on the profits. So we formulated an agreement, and you know, we checked it over with a solicitor, because I think that's important to do that. You've got to check your legal position as well and make sure that you're protecting yourself. So we both did that. We shared information about ourselves, our backgrounds, the property we already had, and we defined our roles, and we set up a limited company. So we're both 50% shareholders and directors of that company. And we've got a succession plan. You know, if anything happens to either of us, that's written into the partnership agreement. So it was all set up very clearly from the start, and we spent quite a lot of time doing that. You know, I think sometimes when we talk about raising money from investors or getting joint venture finance, we think it's a quick process. It's not. It can take months, because you're cultivating a relationship. And you know this if you've ever been in a romantic relationship or been married. It takes time to build the trust and to build the rapport and to build the knowledge of the other person, and also to understand whether there really is a good match here. And sometimes you'll hear people talk about their business partners or their JV partners as if it happened overnight. Well, the meeting might have happened overnight, but actually it takes quite a lot of months to sometimes clarify how that relationship's going to work. And I suppose also get the money in. That can take time as well. So it took us a few months to get together, but once we had that framework, we then went for it.
Fantastic. And can you tell us about your first deal as part of Best Nests then with Mark?
So this was a property that was coming up for auction. And I was very involved with the local estate agents. I used to go in all the time, go and chat to them. I think they just got completely fed up of me always popping in. But I thought, I don't care. I'm here to help you as well, because I'm here to buy some of those properties that maybe you can't sell very easily. So this big, huge 3-bed terraced came up for sale, and it had 3 reception rooms downstairs, a very big kitchen and a garden, and it had 3 huge bedrooms upstairs with a bathroom, and it also had a downstairs wet room. So I was phoned by the local estate agent to say, this is going to the next auction, but would you be interested in viewing it beforehand? And as soon as I went in, I thought, this will make a fantastic HMO, and we can get 7 bedrooms out of it. So I put in a pre-auction offer, and it was accepted and immediately taken off the market. And that was our first 7-bed HMO that we bought and developed.
Wow. And what advice would you give if there are people, which I know there are, who are just thinking, right, I'm going to go in for it with HMOs? What advice would you give them as the first step, that they're not knowledgeable about HMOs and so on?
Well, I think you've got to do some learning and education. It's very easy to lose a lot of money in property if you don't know what you're doing. And, I've bought properties off market, very bad idea. I bought properties abroad, very bad idea. I bought properties that needed too much work doing to them, very bad idea. Of all that tick list that you could have of the bad things to do in property, I've probably done most of them. And that's because I didn't learn. That's because I did not educate myself. I did the odd webinar and I read the odd book, but I do really very much believe in property education, because I think it saves money in the long term. And also it creates a network of people that you can ask questions of. And I didn't have that network. I started to attend networking meetings, but I wasn't really very well connected. And, now I have got so many people. If I've got a question, I can literally message them, text them, call them, meet them. And it's so much better. And social media really is wonderful for this. And I've been a bit slow to kind of grow on social media, but now I'm really trying to do more because it's so valuable, and I want to give back and help other people to do this too.
Yeah, and I noticed you've got a new Facebook group, or newish.
Yes. Well, it's been running for a while, but I've been, again, rather remiss in not doing anything much with it. So about 6 weeks ago, one of my mentors, who is Rob Moore, challenged me to do more on social media and said I should do some more videos. And I thought, as part of that, I should also put some more effort into my Ultimate HMO Success Facebook group. So that's what I've been trying to do, and build up some, commitment and build up some good content for people, so I can help people on their journey too.
Yeah, I've caught a couple of your videos online, so definitely a good move for you. You come across so well on the camera, and there's lots of great content on there as well. So right, so that was how it did. Now, do you want to delve into the numbers on the first one that you did with in the Best Nest?
Yes, so this one we paid £110,000 for. Obviously, it was a large property, and I can't quite remember the refurb cost, but I remember it was eye-wateringly high. We made a few mistakes on this. We lost our first builder, and we had to bring in another builder, and the second builder wasn't as good as the first builder had been. So we double paid for a few things. It was certainly over £60,000, so we spent a lot of money. But we did create a property that's got a wet room and a very nice bathroom upstairs, and I think there might be 3 or 4 ensuite bedrooms. They're all large bedrooms. We created a new utility room downstairs with a kitchen, and we've now got 7 lettable rooms. And in that house, the room rents vary quite high, quite widely actually, because we have the bigger rooms at the front, which are more like the sort of executive suite, which for about £115 a week, right down to some of the smaller rooms, which rent for about £80–85 a week. So there's a bit of a spread in that house. Now we had it revalued, and I think it revalued at about 210. So we did leave money in the deal when we refinanced that. But having said that, the return we get on it is still pretty good. So that I wouldn't call that an A-star project. That particular project, it was good. It certainly helped us to learn a lot, but it wasn't one of the best ones. I wouldn't. It's not the sort of jewel in the crown.
But it was quite interesting on the reval, wasn't it? Because there was this sort of the idea of the hybrid mortgage.
Yeah. So Mark, my business partner, he had a very good commercial relationship with Lloyds Bank. And this was really good for us because it meant that he could speak to the manager, the commercial lending manager, face to face. And that was so useful because what it's meant that is every time we've had a property or a project, we can literally phone up Lloyds and they will give us a kind of ballpark yes or no before we even go ahead and buy it. So I would recommend to people, once you've got 3 or 4 HMOs, once you've got a bit of a mini portfolio going on, start to build a relationship with a commercial bank, because they will be more interested to work with you on a personal level. So you don't necessarily always need to use a broker. Having said that, we do still have a broker because I always like to do checks and balances. And recently we did a commercial conversion and Lloyds were horrific to deal with. And I thought, right, that's it. I'm not using Lloyds anymore. So you've got to keep different irons in the fire and have lots of different kind of relationships going on there. But yeah, what I found is, and again, this is a few years ago, so banks have tightened up on their regulations, but B, on their approach to funding. And what we were seeing was that Lloyds were doing a commercial calculation for the price of the value of the property, and they were doing a bricks and mortar valuation and effectively going somewhere in the middle. So this minimized their risk on the lending, but it also allowed us as investors to maximize the value. So they would often give us that kind of, what I called it, a hybrid valuation. And that's just my word for it, because it felt to me very much like it was kind of in between the commercial and the bricks and mortar. Yeah,
I just thought that was interesting because there's lots of talk, well, Facebook and elsewhere, about these commercial revaluations being a bit of a myth. And actually, what you're saying is that the lending does take it into account, even on what is essentially a house. and the changes do not make it into a commercial property as such, that some lenders do still recognise that sort of commercial value, even though it's not a full-on 100% commercial valuation. So I thought it was just useful to draw that out. Now I think it's good. You've now got over 35 HMOs, is that right?
Yeah, well, 35 properties, 26 HMOs.
Right.
We might have more properties than that. To be honest, I know it's terrible. I can't always keep track because we're often buying and selling, or we are doing projects, or we're converting properties into and sort of splitting the title. So yes, it's about that level, Stephanie.
In that ballpark. And between owned and managed, because you've now got a letting agent as well, and you manage them in less than a couple of hours a week. So tell us about that. What's the basics?
So yeah, it's really true. If I spend 4 hours or more on my business, that is a lot of hours for me. I really have almost nothing to do with the property side now. And actually, it's sometimes I miss it. Actually, sometimes I think I need to dip my toe in the water. And in fact, yesterday I did go and do a viewing of a property, and looking to maybe do a lease option on that one. So I do still like doing property viewings. I get a lot of buzz out of going to see a property. But we've used a team, and we've had a sourcer working for us in our team. So that's been really helpful. Although, as I say, it's been good in one sense because he's been able to go out and do the viewings and source the properties. But on the other hand, I've missed some of that. So it's got good and bad sides. But yeah, we've really tried to systemize the business so that we have a lean staff team, and so that our staff are very clear about what their roles and responsibilities are. And we use a lot of tools, a lot of online tools, so that we can work remotely. We just work from our home office, and our team usually work from their homes as well. And we come together around our kitchen table. It's very simple. It's nothing grand. We may move into office accommodation. At the moment, we quite like the way we work. It gives our staff a lot of flexibility. They've got children as well, so it means that they don't have to work 9 to 5, and they don't have to work in an office. And I think that being a mom, it's really shaped my vision and values about my business. And one of the things about being an entrepreneur that's such a gift is that you can shape your business the way you want it to be. You do not have to do it the same as other people do it. And one of the areas that I see a lot of people falling into is spending all the profit that they make on overheads. Renting a posh office building, having lots of staff, doing lots of stuff, but actually they're not very profitable. And we've been so clear that we want to grow our profits month on month, because we do not want to give up the lifestyle that we've created. But to do that, you've got to be very focused, Stephanie. You've got to be able to manage your staff well, so they're efficient and they do what you ask them to do. You've got to manage your overheads well, so that you're constantly reducing them, so that you maximize your profits. And of course, you've also got to make sure that you don't have voids, because that's a big killer when you've got an HMO business, as you would well know. By the way, you haven't got voids, so that's really good. But if you do, the impact it has on your turnover.
Absolutely. So those are great tips to focus on having a profitable business. It sounds so obvious, but many people do fall foul. And to maximize the effectiveness of your team, what are the top tips that you would give to keep your business profit focused, and also to improve staff efficiency?
Well, I would always look at using systems which are. Oh, now there's a sort of feedback on the line. Sorry, Stephanie, I just thought I'd let you know. Oh, that's fine. That's better now. Thank you. So I'd always look to using systems which are as cost effective as possible. So we use Google Drive. We use the Google Suite for our business. So all of the forms that we use, the online forms, the online system, sheets, so on, they're all online. So we don't print out any paper. We have a practically paper-free operation. If we use paper, it's the odd thing that we have to print out because somebody doesn't, for example, have maybe they don't have a tablet, or they don't have a way in which they can share data electronically. but 99% of what we do is paper free. So that saves a lot of time and a lot of money. I think being clear with your staff about what their job role is and meeting with them regularly. Now, our staff have been with us for quite a while now, so they understand what their roles are. But I think when you're getting new staff into your business, clarity and good management is so vital, so that they embed into the business quickly and they can start to make money for you, because that's their job, is to make you money. And you know, again, a lot of people I think lose sight of this. It's like an empire for them, and it's ego driven. They've got a big office and they've got 20 staff. I don't care. I don't care if you've got 100 staff and you've got 55 offices internationally. I've known people who have businesses like that and they've gone bankrupt because they've got a massive turnover machine, but they haven't got profit. So you've got to keep your eye on profitability. So any outgoings that you don't need, cut them out. Be ruthless about how much you're spending every month on maintenance. Understand why you're spending more on maintenance than you should be. That's a real killer into profit. Debt and rent collection. Make sure you're collecting rents, and as soon as your tenants are not paying or you have any problems, nip it in the bud. I think being focused and sharp on your business is critical, and it means you don't necessarily have to have a massive business to actually have a very, very healthy income and to have lots of time, because that's the benefit of running a business like this, is that, you know, I've got 50 hours a week when I can really practically do what I like, which is great.
Yeah. And what are you talking?
Sorry, Stephanie, I didn't hear you.
You mentioned voids there, Wendy. What are your top tips on that side?
Well, I think like you, we were having a chat before we came live and talking about making sure that tenants give you the proper notice period. I think that's the first step, to make sure that tenants are giving you a month, because it often takes a month to turn around that room or to make sure that they're up to date with their rent before they leave. And sometimes tenants will give you a month's notice, but they might leave in 3 weeks' time. So you've then got a week of, if you like, additional rent coming in, when you could maybe go in and check the room. Does it need any TLC? You know, does it need a little paint here, or does it need something sort of upgrading? So you have time to do that if you get the right notice period. I think the other thing is to make sure that you're advertising in lots of different ways. Excuse me. Sorry. It's the thought of voids, you see. It just makes me choke up. I can't stand them. Apology. So, yeah, I think advertising on lots of different places, like Spare Room is great, and we use Spare Room, but I wouldn't rely on Spare Room. I think it's really important that you have your own website and you advertise your rooms on your website. I think you can do things like advertising in lots of different places, working with employers to make sure that they understand what you do and who you are, and what benefits you might offer to their staff. So I think there's many things that you need to do. Social media, Facebook, you know, those are some of the areas that we've used as well to make sure that the voids remain at a minimum.
Yeah, we've found that we're developing more relationships now with companies, and we had a call. I had a lovely email yesterday. I had approached a woman. I had a letting agent had referred us to someone, and this person had called. She's currently living in London, and they're coming. They're all going to be working at a small firm as apprentices, but they were finding it difficult to get a room because they're apprentices. It's the agents were not regarding that as full-time employment, and so I got in touch with the place because we've got somebody else who's an apprentice at this same company who is absolutely lovely. And I thought if we had a flow of people who are coming who are just so lovely, that would be ideal. And she said, you must be an angel. She said, I've had sleepless nights thinking about what to do with these young girls, because they're mainly young girls coming who are moving away from home for the first time. And she was a bit nervous from the company side of things about just placing them in any sort of house share, and you don't know what the mix of people will be and all of that sort of thing. So yeah, having those company relationships can really help. So glad you could share that about your systems and so on. But let's take things a little bit further on now to some of the things that you're doing now.
So we're moving more into conversions. And one of my main now is running my mentoring program. So I've got a 12-month mentoring program that I run, and I do some training as well for people. And I love it. I have to say, I love helping people create financial freedom for themselves and their family. So for me, it's a great business to be in, but it's fun, and it's very fulfilling and rewarding to help people. So I've been working with some of my students on helping them to create great cash flowing HMOs, and that's all over the country. Actually, it's not just locally. I'm doing that all over the country, and it's really interesting because you get to see the HMO market in different places like London and Bath and Swindon and Bristol and Birmingham and Derby and Nottingham and all over Wakefield. So that's been fascinating for me, and it's given me a really good overview of the UK. And one of the things that I do with my mentees is on our first session together, I'll go and spend half a day in their location, and we go and look at some properties, or we go and look at, some of them already have 1 or 2 HMOs, but they're not working very well, or they might be brand new, so we'll go and do a couple of viewings. And it really helps me to get a good perspective on what's happening in the UK HMO market, and that's incredibly valuable. So so in terms of the property side, we are looking to do a bigger commercial conversion later in the year, and we're just working on that at the moment, preparing that. We are still interested in buying property. We're doing some viewings on single buy-to-let properties as well. If we can get a good deal, why not? Yeah. So we're looking at doing some of those as well. Slowly, I think, growing some more HMOs and growing our lettings business as well. I think that's another area that we're looking to do, and we're starting to recruit for a second person at the moment in that business. So yeah, lots of fun.
So tell us about that deal. That's what I was angling at, your recent commercial to Resi.
Yes, that's right. So this was an old building which had been used by a church organisation, and originally, way back, it must have been built as a house. But it's on a high street, and it's now flanked by a sandwich shop on one side and hairdressers on the other. And it had been converted into a meeting room downstairs, and then a couple of rooms and a kitchen and a bathroom upstairs. So you could see the original structure was probably a domestic residence, way back when. But it was in a pretty bad condition. And I drove past it because it's in a town that's probably 5 miles from where we live, not in one of our usual investing areas. And I'd driven past this building quite a few times, and I saw a very faded sign outside the building. So it was a sign from an estate agent, a commercial estate agent, very, very faded and old. And for some reason, this particular day, my antenna was up and working for a change. And I thought, hey, an old faded sign. That means that the property has been on the market for a long time. Yeah. I'm a bit slow on the take up sometimes, Stephanie. So
I don't believe that.
So I got home and I phoned the agent and I said, look, hey, what's the deal about this building? And the guy said, oh, that building. He said, we had it up for sale originally for £125,000. It's been on the market over a year and it hasn't sold. We've just reduced it to £75,000. So I thought, whoa, that sounds like a really good deal. It sounds like they're in the market for doing some negotiation. So I said, well, can I come and have a look? So the next day or the day after, I went down and had a viewing, and I thought it was a nice building because it was very square. So the front and the back were very even. The upstairs and the downstairs were very even. It was a typical kind of doll's house building. You could cut it up and it would all the rooms would be very even. So I looked at the building and I said to the man, have you had much interest? And he said, oh, we've got one other person potentially interested, but it's a bit slow. So I just said, well, would you accept £50,000? And he sort of kind of went, oh, madam, it's up for £75,000. You must think we're crazy. So I said, well, that's my offer. Take it or leave it. And about an hour later, I got home and he phoned up and he said, we can't accept 50. 5. So I said, Yes, the deal is £55,000. So we bought it for £55,000. Yeah. Well, again, it's about finding motivated sellers, isn't it? That's the key. So we did the conversion, which cost about £75,000. I mean, that was more expensive than buying the building, but we turned it into 4 flats. So we've got a studio and then 3 one-bedroom flats, and they're all rented out, and they all have their own utilities. So we don't pay for the utilities; they pay for them. It's not an HMO; it's a block of 4 flats. And it's a very nice investment. It brings us in about £1,600 a month income, and we've had it revalued. Now, again, the valuation wasn't as high as we would have liked. It's revalued at 150. So the revaluation was a little bit less than we were hoping for. We were hoping for about 180, and then we would have got all our money out. But as it is, we will leave in about £23,000. But that's more or less 100% return on investment. You know, in just over a year, we'll get all our money back because of the rent. So it's good. It's still a good deal. You know, you win some, you lose some.
I think it's I wouldn't lost when you've got 23 grand in, and I'm echoing. 17 a month net, well, virtually net.
Yeah.
You know, after your
exactly cost. Because we don't have any bills, you see, unlike an HMO where you obviously have got all the bills included. With this, we thought we wanted to. They all pay their own council tax, and they all pay. There's no gas, so it's just electric and water. So it's actually quite cheap for the tenants to live there as well, and but it's much less management for us. So yeah, it works really well. We're very happy, and it's only 5 minutes down the road, so our team can easily manage it as well.
Yeah, no, that's ideal. And then you've got a bigger one that you're working on as well.
Yeah, so this is a bit under wraps at the moment, so stay tuned for the details, people. We will we're looking to do more of a 20 to 30 bed one. So yeah, that's kind of ticking over in the background at the moment. We're just doing some work and some negotiations, and we're working with a couple of investors as well. So these bigger deals take a bit more time to come to fruition, which we understand.
Yeah. Okay, well, Wendy, in the pause, I'll just say a quick hello to, we've got a few people watching. And do remember, if you've got any questions about attracting investors or anything like that, oh yes, and we'll come back to Tamsin question. That's what we'll come back to, just after these few hellos. Just want to say a quick hello. Hi, Patricia, John, Toyin, Paul, Gorinda, and Wendy. Hi to you guys. And now we'll come on to Tamsin's question, which was how to work with investors when you're just new in property.
Well, listen, Tamsin, you know, I was kind of new in property as well, so I do know how that feels. You almost don't know what you don't know. You don't know what you should say. You don't know how you should approach them. You don't know how to be. And I think what I learned was just be yourself. Be honest about your experience. And also remember that although you might not have a lot of property experience, you've got a lot of life experience. And one of the things I realized was that being a mum, which I hadn't really thought was particularly valuable, one of the things I was good at doing was juggling. I was really good at juggling lots of different priorities. And, you know, I had to, because I had these 4 boys. And so I think there's probably things in your background or in your current job that you do that you could definitely transfer into your experience in your current desire to get perhaps more investors on board. One of the other things I would say is it's about building relationships, and these relationships take time. So you've got to be cultivating relationships all the time. And some investors will meet you and they'll talk to you and they won't want to take it any further. They're not ready, or they don't trust you enough, or they don't like you enough. I know that's you know, you don't want to hear that, but that's true. Sometimes that's the case. Just don't want to work with you. But other people will go, hey, I really like Tamsin. There's something about her I connect with. I think she's got skills that could help in this business. We could do some projects together. And when you're looking for investment, you're saving somebody time, and you are making them money, and ultimately you're solving their pain points. So it's worth having a think, what are the pain points that I'm helping somebody to overcome, and how can I communicate that to them? So being quite clear about your own values and about what you bring to the pot, I think, is really crucial, because then you can clarify to the investor what it is you're going to bring to the table and how you can offer them value in return for their financial investment.
Oh, that's fantastic advice, Wendy, and I can see why people get so much value from you, because I think you really bring out there that the skills that we've already got that we can utilise in this way, which we may not see because there's so much mindset, isn't it? So much of life in general is mindset, but particularly in property. And Tamsin has said, yes, I'm a mum too, and she's a working mum. So I hope that resonated with you, Tamsin, and that's useful for you. And thanks also to Patricia. Hi to you. So you had said about your coaching. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
So I do various different levels of coaching and mentoring. I run a free workshop. I've actually got one coming up on Saturday in London. I think the afternoon's full now, but I've got a few spaces still left in the morning. If anyone's interested, just message me and I'll send you the details. Then I do a 2-day event, which is a much more of a deep dive on HMOs. So that's much more the detail about how to get started, how to find finance, how to work with an investor. We cover the legislation and the regulations. We look at how to project manage a refurb, how to create beautiful rooms that rent within 24 hours, and the systems that you need as well to run your business hands-free. So all of that is covered in my 2-day event. And then following on from that, if you want more support, advice and hand-holding, then I run a 12-month mentoring program. So if anyone's interested, just feel free to drop me a line. Very happy to do a half-hour call with you to suss out whether this is right for you or not. I'm keen that people find the right training and education for them. I might not be right for them. On the other hand, I think that I can also offer some great value and experience. I think I've got a lot of experience in HMOs, a lot of experience of working with people across the country in HMOs. And you also can get a free copy of my book. There's a plug. Sorry.
Well, that's because you've got so much value to offer. I know a lot of people, or quite a few people, are wanting to set up, letting agencies, and you've just recently launched that. Previously, I believe you were just managing your own properties, and then you've now set up a letting agent. I hear lots of letting agents saying it's not the way to go and are struggling. So can you tell us a little bit about how you found the process of setting up your lettings agency, how it's been, and what advice you would give to people who are thinking about setting up a lettings agency?
Well, we're what you might call a bijou lettings agency. So we're very careful about the properties that we take on, and we have a quality checklist, and all our properties from our external landlords have to fulfill that quality checklist before we even take them on. And we are quite picky about the properties that we take on, and actually we're a little bit picky about the landlords as well, because what I found is that if you don't have a good relationship with the landlord and the landlord doesn't trust you, they're going to be very high maintenance and they're going to take up all your time, and that's not what you need. And this is, I think, one of the reasons why lettings agents often complain about not making enough money, because they're spending so much time dealing with their clients who are the landlords. Now, I do think that landlords can be trained as well, if that doesn't sound too sort of patronizing, but I think that it's about creating a system with your landlords so that they're happy. They get regular feedback, they get regular reports, they get regular photos from the property, they get regular statements about the rent, and they get paid regularly. I think if you can do that, you build trust and you build credibility with landlords. And I would also say, don't try and expand too quickly, because if you expand too quickly and you haven't got a staff team behind you to support you, the thing that will probably fail quickest is customer service. And the one thing that you need to build your reputation on as a lettings agent is customer service. So remember to try and, you know, make sure that you might only have a few landlords on your books, but try and serve them well. Try and create systems so that you're not overcome with the time commitment, and try and make sure that you've got regular ways in which you interact with them, but make sure that you control that, not them. And that way they'll fall into line. And we now have very, very clear systems for our landlords when we communicate with them, how often they get their rental statement every month, and they get the money paid in. And we have WhatsApp groups. We love WhatsApp. We're sort of WhatsApp crazy in our business, because you can have a WhatsApp group for a particular property or a particular area of the business. And it's a quick and fast way of exchanging photos and information and so on. So I think that helps as well. But yeah, I think if you grow too quickly, things can fall over. On the other hand, if you don't grow fast enough, you'll end up giving it up because you won't be making any money. So I think there's you know, pacing yourself in the business is quite critical.
Okay, well, I think we've sort of covered all of the ground, from just starting up with your very beginning, to taking your investors on board, to setting up your lettings agency, to then moving on to the commercial to residential developments, and also talking about the mentoring and coaching and the Facebook group and all the other things that you've got going on. Is there anything within that, Wendy, that you want to elaborate on, or that you feel that I haven't asked you to talk about yet?
Well, I suppose I would just reiterate that, as we spoke about before we came on the call, that if you're a year or 6 months into your journey, sometimes it's tough. Building an HMO portfolio is not easy. But then, to be honest, no business is easy in its first couple of years. It's a bit of a slog. And, you know, you may have to give up a lot to make this happen. But I think it's completely worth it, because that end goal is so possible. And if you're determined, and if you give this your energy and your consistency and your persistency, you too can become financially and time free through HMOs. You don't need many of them to make it happen. But I think having that vision and that commitment and that willingness to step out of your comfort zone and try something new and take a leap of faith, that's often what it requires. Yeah. Don't hold back, because taking those leaps of faith will be the huge steps that take you forward in your business and will hugely transform your income.
Yeah. And you were explaining when we had our call that for you, it was 10 HMOs that got you to that financial freedom figure, because you were splitting, you know, 50-50 with your JV partner. But and that was just within a year. And as you say, obviously, well, made some mistakes. But what I mean to say is it was still possible. It was still possible at the start for you to do that. And that's what I find inspiring talking to you. And also because we're at year 2, and just seeing what's possible in the years 3, 4, and 5 it is encouraging and quite exciting as well. So
you'll do, Stephanie, you will be great, and you'll be much further on than I am. In 3 years' time, you'll probably have a much bigger portfolio, and because I can see it in you. You're just great. You too have wonderful enthusiasm and energy and commitment and focus, and that's what you need to succeed in this business. And you're doing great. I think this channel, the Facebook group, what you're doing is truly amazing. I was scared of social media for about 4 years, just did a few posts here and there. But you've really thrown yourself in the deep end, and I congratulate you for that.
Well, thank you. Perhaps don't look at some of the early videos, but I was absolutely petrified. Even though I've done videos, it's different doing the recorded videos than doing the lives. It just has a level of terror to it. But I did want to stick with it, because I sort of had the idea about the HMO Heroes some years ago, and I wasn't planning to do it this year, but I don't know, I just started. But yeah, thanks for saying that, Wendy. I'll check's in the post. And yeah, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story with us. And I will post the details if you want to connect with Wendy or find out that there's a group and there's all sorts of other things. Oh, we've had a comment from Arshad Ali. Both are truly inspirational.
Oh, thank you. That's very sweet of you.
And
steps of people like you, you know.
Not a lot of questions this week, but I know that you would have found the information useful. I was especially interested in the structuring and just hearing that what investors are looking for in many cases is not as much as we think, and sometimes we undervalue what our contribution to a joint venture will be. So really some gems in there about understanding what your contribution is worth and finding the right sort of investors who will work with you, for whom where the deal can be really a win-win.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think it's about finding out what the investor wants as well, because sometimes that takes a bit of time to really uncover. The investor sometimes will start by saying, well, I really want this. But as you get to know them, you think, that isn't actually really important to you. What's really important is this. So it takes time sometimes to uncover that. But yeah, keep going and you'll get there.
Yeah, brilliant. And any final words, Wendy?
Just thank you all so much for being here on this live video feed. Really appreciate you watching us tonight and listening to us. Thank you so much. I'd love to connect with you wherever you are in the country. If there's anything I can do to help you, please let me know. I can also give you a link to download my book free of charge. It's on Amazon and you normally have to pay for it, but I'm going to give it to you free. I must be crazy. So if you want that, let me know and I'll send you a link and you can get my book free of charge.
Thanks, Wendy. And also we've had, oh, goodness me, these comments are coming thick and fast because the live is actually a little bit behind us. I know it's supposed to be live, but they're a little bit behind. But Paul Haynes has said, great vid, ladies, very helpful. And Eduardo Mendoza, high praise indeed, says, best live yet. Thank you both. So you're the factor there, Wendy. That's the X factor. And hi Prince, thanks for your thumbs up. And hi Maisie, I can't keep up with it all now. All the with all the comments. So yeah, as Wendy said, thank you so much all for watching. We'll be back next week, and next week's show will be really interesting because Emma Jones is coming on, and she'll be talking about how she built up her HMO portfolio using lease options. Now, we hear a lot about lease options, but I've never thought it was that sort of reliable ongoing strategy. But you might think differently about it after we've talked to Emma next week. So tune in for that on Thursday. But for now, it's a bye from Wendy.
Bye.
And bye from me. And I will see you all next week, guys. Bye for now.
Bye.